Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And with this one, we've got another 9.1.5 update. We've got some class changes, talent tuning to go over, as well as some LFG and system changes that are very notable in this round. And I'm going to be talking about some of my own personal wish list changes. Going to be a little bit more specific to PvP, but so far as a PvE player, there is a ton of changes in here that you're definitely going to be excited about to return to in patch 9.1.5. Now, for the classes specifically in this update, we don't have a lot. It looks specifically here. We've got Blood Death Knight having the talent consumption buffed by 60% more damage. Same thing for Brewmasters as a tank. You're going to have your talent special delivery buffed by 100% more damage. So looking at the underrepresented tanks and trying to maybe kind of diversify their talent windows and give them a little bit more performance and options. So it's always great. Whether or not you'll actually compete with a Vengeance Demon Hunter in the highest level of keys or a Guardian Druid, yet to be seen, but you're at least getting a little bit of attention. Paladins have been receiving a lot of buffs directly oriented at their Necrolord Covenant. So in this update, Vanquisher's Hammer, your Necrolord ability, now increases the effectiveness of the free Holy Power Spender by 25%. I am a bit curious to see, with all these buffs coming in onto the Necrolord Paladins, if they could start getting some massive final verdict hits as Rep Paladin specifically in PvP is what's standing out to me. But as far as competing with Ashen Hollow, it's going to be pretty tough to do, although with the AoE cap now removed, maybe Divine Storm builds for Retribution Paladins might become more effective. Outlaw here is going to be receiving a buff. Hey, they remembered you. You're on a change. Outlaw Rogue. Dreadblade's talent. Initial strike deals 26% more damage and now immediately fills your combo points in addition to its current effects. So that could provide you a lot of extra burst damage. Outlaw Rogue in PvP at least has fallen off. Outlaw in PvE, I think the problem with Outlaw in PvE is that you were just the god in BFA and you had all eyes on you, and that meant that you just got shoved down into the dirt and another spec kind of just took your spot. But with AoE cap now removed, maybe we see Outlaw Rogue start to rise to the occasion. This is definitely going to be a welcome buff. Warlock Demonology, your Nether Portal talent is being reduced in its cooldown to 2.5 minutes, down from 3. In PvP, anything above a 2-minute cooldown is really long. It's a long time to wait for a cooldown in PvP. And these cooldowns generally have to have the ability to just completely eradicate somebody to even have them be selected. This is not one that immediately stands out to me, and being shifted to 2.5 minutes does not still even get my attention too much. But for PvE, this might be a welcome change. For Warrior, your Impending Victory talent cooldown is being reduced to 25 seconds, down from 30, and now heals you for 40% of your maximum health, up from 30. This might be an all right talent for you to pick up as a solo warrior questing out in the world or doing PvP. I still think it's probably unlikely to lose the stun utility on this talent row in anything else in this, that being Stormbolt or the extra mobility from the charge talent. So a little bit of a tough one, but if you were one of those warriors that's always like, I need a heal man, this talent is now going to heal you a substantial amount, 40% of your maximum health. Specifically scrolling down through some of the changes, they're adding quality of life towards the covenants to be able to catch up your alts. Now looking at items and rewards, I think this is where PvE players are going to start to get a lot happier about this. Increased drop rate of Shards of Domination. Again, I think a pretty controversial system that came in with 9.1. So now just trying to get more of them into your hands so that you have more options to put them together. As a PvP player, you probably don't need to worry about this as they're nerfed in PvP. And I think we can all be thankful for that. Now, this change has a big impact on the game as a whole. Significantly increased the amount of Soul Cinders awarded from layers 8 to 12, so the more difficult layers, from Maw Assaults, Torments of Torghast, and Command Table missions. So significantly, how much is that? We have to wait and see. But one of my biggest gripes so far with Shadowlands is that the amount of time it takes to accumulate the currency to buy a legendary is so long that I am just completely turned off from the idea entirely once I've gone after the one that I want, which really has prevented my ability to experiment and test out different builds. Now with the ability to change covenants more readily and get access to more of this currency, hopefully it's going to be by enough that I actually feel encouraged to try out some other stuff and make it work without having to do more of the repetitive grind that I've already kind of burnt myself out on, just to be able to get a taste test of a different legendary, because there might be a lot of very fun builds and potential opportunities in Shadowlands that are just going completely unexplored because players just can't be asked to go and grind that currency back a second time to try something that maybe it doesn't work. And it's like, well, why did I spend all that time to get something that didn't end up being that fun anyways? It's a very stressful position to be in. So this change is a welcome one for the game as a whole, PvE or PvP. And now players who reach 80 renown can purchase a broker mark of distinction for 500 gold in Oribos that can be used as an alternate character to instantly grant the character up to 40 renown. And obviously you can't use it beyond 40 renown at this point. Potentially though, in the next patch, you would see another item like this to go to 80, I would hope. But this is going to be a good way of getting your alt caught up. And if your alt happens to be of a covenant that you've already leveled through the campaign, it's going to get to skip all of those campaign quests. So this is a welcome change for just getting your alt up and running a little bit faster. So it's definitely appreciated to see this. And now players can also purchase versions of Korthian armaments that create a piece of gear specific for specific slots. Now, that was one of my biggest problems with this Korthian armament kind of catch-up mechanic gearing from PvE or from Korthia, is that I would just random out a piece that I already had and random out another piece that I already had, and I might have had 5 of them that all gave me a ring or pants or something, and my alt really needed something else. So now being able to target the gear, which is something I'm hoping they iterate more into the future, because at least for myself, layers of RNG on top of RNG on top of RNG for seemingly no purpose other than to just keep you engaged with the same repetitive content that you're going to just be inevitably become burnt out on and resentful of because of this being so RNG based, is getting more specific. Now, what I would like to see, speaking more specifically, again, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, but what I would like to see put into the game is a way for you to be able to send honor to alts, or allow you to buy honor armaments from the PvP vendor that you can send to your alt that they can then utilize. Something like that to assist, because this is a great mechanic for PvE players to be able to catch up their alts, but PvP doesn't seem to have one, and I don't see how it would impact PvE because the item level on that PvP gear is now scaled, so it's already at a default lower point than this Korthia gear. So I don't feel like it would contest with that, where PvEers feel forced to PvP because of the scaling now, and it would alleviate a lot. And again, allow players to be able to play alts and experiment with different builds and have more fun in the game, right? That you might get to a point where their main character is ready to go. You've exhausted your options, and now you want to try something else, but going through the arduous grind of the honor that you've already gone through in your main now again is quite daunting. So I would really like to see something specific towards PvP, much like we are seeing here with the Korthia armaments. But for honor, it could even be just boxing your honor like Soul Ash and sending it at a 25% reduced amount or whatever it needs to be to your alt, to be able to just get your alt up and running a little bit faster. I would really like to see that. A little bit mobility around Torghast, more rewards from Torghast in terms of the Soul Cinders and Soul Ash, which we already talked about, and LFG. So this is a very welcome change coming into LFG, and kind of a low-key, pretty big change. So group creators are now able to browse listings. So this means that if you're looking for a partner to play Arena, so you've made a group looking for partner, and then it'll tell you when somebody signed up for you, but you can also browse around other people who may also be looking for a partner, whereas before you would never see each other because you couldn't look for a partner while also listing yourself as an option. So this is definitely a great accessibility change to LFG as a whole across the game, across the board. So definitely a good one for 9.1.5, especially if you're somebody that's always trying to look and find partners and you're really struggling to. Now, specifically what I would like to see, and we're actually going to take a look at the game here, and I'm logged on to a character, and I'm logged on to an alt. But one thing that I've noticed that I'm not sure if it's intended, it probably is, but to be able to get the conduits and the sockets from Korthia, to be able to get the reputation that you need, you can only get it in Korthia, you can only get it from killing rares, you can only get it from looting chests, and it's the research that I'm sure that we're all aware of, that we're farming and we're trying to get. Now, for me, what I don't understand is from the Great Vault, you can be awarded an item here that'll appear on the bottom. It'll be 3 tokens. And then you can take these 3 tokens over here and you can talk to one of these NPCs and you can buy research, right? So you can buy 1,500 research. But for some reason, these items don't work like every other research item. Every other research item, you need to go to Korthia and you need to turn it in, and it gives you reputation, and it gives you research. These items only give you research and give you no reputation, so they're effectively useless because you can't spend the research without the reputation. For me, what I would personally like to see is that these items be consumed into that research vendor and also provide you reputation. So that at a certain point, if you're a player focused on end game content, you can utilize Korthia and collecting rares when you want to as a supplement towards that reputation grind. But you can also focus on the end game content that you want to prioritize, be it raiding, Mythic Plus, or PvP from the Great Vault. And once you've progressed your gear to a point where you're selecting these tokens to start getting research, you can then start getting those tokens and start getting your rep up and start getting those conduits available to you from that vendor while still focusing on your end game content without always feeling forced into 2 hours of grinding the same rares and looting the same chests from Korthia. So it becomes more of a supplement, or if you really want to try and push it and rush out your conduits, you can, but you can also use this method to get there. Maybe it takes you a little bit longer, but you can have some hope of getting to the point where you can unlock sockets, and you can unlock the conduits, and it's going to sacrifice a loot table from the really difficult content in the game, right, from your Great Vault. So it's a pretty big trade-off to be able to go that route. But that's what I would personally like to see in terms of making the reputation vendor more alt accessible, even main accessible, just accessible in general. So that way you can have a choice and also supplement it and go off into different aspects of the game rather than feeling only forced into that one line. That's one change that I would like to see. Will it actually happen again? Probably not, but I just wanted to talk about it. Another change is that over time, right, conquest is going to become accumulated, and you're going to be able to get more of it, more of it, more of it, and more of it. But it can also be daunting because this number becomes massive over time. And while everyone is playing together at the start of a season and progressing their character and progressing their item level, and they're all moving at the same pace, it feels really good. But if you started halfway in and everyone's way ahead of you, and no one wants to play with you because they're way ahead of you, and you're looking at trying to catch up to where they are, and you see that 2v2 is going to give you 35 conquests, 25 after the first win, and you start looking like, how many 2v2 games I'm going to have to win at this disadvantage to be able to get to the point where I can then have access to that conquest gear that when everyone was playing together, it worked really well, but now it's desyncing the group. I would also like to see conquest start to increase in terms of its amount. It doesn't need to be all the way to the maximum cap, but to a certain threshold, right? So if we're at 10,000 conquest, you earn double conquest up to 5,000 or something. So that way you can at least start getting close to it so that you're at least a little bit desirable to the people that are forming groups for the end game PvP content, rather than just being so far off and just left in this abyss of being under geared where you can't find anyone that wants to play with you other than the other people who are in the abyss, and both of you are not geared, so you're kind of useless, so you're just wandering the abyss, and maybe you give up. I would like to see that, and that used to be in the game as well when the conquest system existed in the past, where you would start accumulating a lot more of it and more of it and more of it. So I would really like to see that in terms of PvP catch up, because so far a lot of these changes in PvE is everything, just hit the nail on the head, everything that people have been asking for a while in Shadowlands. But PvP it's benefiting a little bit from it, but it also feels like it could have a couple of specific things aimed at it. And I think my idea here for this research, giving you reputation as well, and also alleviating the conquest a little bit, at least initially, once the season has gone on for a while, to get alts up to speed, to get your new players that are coming in late up to speed if you want to get a friend into the game. It's just going to encourage and motivate people because they're actually moving at a little bit of a faster pace, and then also allow them to focus on the content that they want to do, and still supplement in with some Korthia if they want to towards getting those conduits. I guess the only other small thing for PvP specifically would be that there's no way to get maximum level conduits from PvP. I don't know if that's just an oversight from the fact that conduits don't scale, and the rest of the PvP gear does, because right now from the PvP vendors, if we really want to go over there and look there, they've only got 230 item level conduits, and right now the maximum item levels are 252, whereas last patch you could get the maximum level conduits. So I don't know if this is just because the system doesn't have the ability to implement scaling on conduits, But I don't really understand why these conduits can't also just be max item level. Even if it is maybe disruptive to a PvE player, these conduits, generally speaking, are a very small amount of conquest. Like I'm quite literally meaning win one conquest related activity. You probably win a random BG, you get enough conquest to be able to buy this conduit. Like, really not like having to go to Korthia every day for 2 months or having to do Torghast every week for 2 months to get this conduit at 252. So at least for me, I would really like to see these conquest conduits go back to 252, the maximum level that they were last season, because right now as a PvP player, getting your conduits is the biggest problem. You just don't have access to any sort of high item level conduits in the game, with going through PvP to acquire them. And that was the last small thing I wanted to talk about. But other than that, all these changes are looking great. Really hoping that they can hit on some PvP specific ones towards making it alt accessible, new player accessible. But other than that, hoping that we see some more class changes as well. And if you'd like to stay up to date with any of those, then make sure you subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to be doing my best to bring those updates to you in real time. If you liked the video, leave it with a thumbs up. It's always helpful. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. And we will see you in the next video.